Twiggs County Board of Education meeting is now called to order. Today is Tuesday, October the 27th, 2020, and the time is 6:05. Members present for the meeting tonight is Mr. Harris, Ms. Blackshear, Ms. Stokes, Mr. Dixon, the superintendent, and myself, Isaiah Rouse. May we stand for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda, October the 27th, BOE work section?
I move that motion.
I second that motion.
Motion was properly made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Harris to accept the approval of tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion at this time? Are you ready for the question? All in favor, say yes or raise your hand. All opposers, say no or raise your hand. That motion carries unanimously. Next item would be the approval of the minutes, October the 13th, 2020, BOE regular session. May I have a motion, please? You got a minute to look over it and see if you need to. Wait.
Mr. Chair, I move the motion to accept the last recorded minutes as presented.
Second.
The motion has been properly made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mrs. Blackshear to accept the approval of the minutes of October the 13th, 2020, BOE regular session. Is there any discussion at this time? Are you ready for the question? Again, the motion is to accept the approval of the minutes for October the 13th, 2020, BOE regular session. All in favor, say yes or raise your hand. All opposers? That motion passed unanimously. Next is the ethics statement by Mrs. Blackshear.
Thank you. In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any non-conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will proceed with our agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Blackshear. It's not on the agenda, but Mr. Dixon, do you have any superintendent comments?
Very few. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We thank you for the opportunity to give comments tonight. I want to say thank you to our stakeholders and to this board for your support that you have given to us as we go through this unprecedented times and the having to make some decisions at the last moment in the best interests of our scholars. And I want to say thank you to the parents of making quick adjustments. Sometimes we just have to make those decisions, and we did have to make a quick one on Monday. We tried to get the word out as quick as possible, and I think we made the right decision at that time. As of right now, we are planning to return on Monday. Due to the matrix that we have to involve our Twiggs County Public Health Department. From that, North Central Health District gets involved. From that, the CDC gets involved. And once they are involved, They tell us when we return or when the ones that are affected or infected will return. So we are planning to return as of right now on Monday, but there may be a delay with some people who may have been affected or infected as to when they will return, or if there is a delay when we all will return. So we will be getting that information out as we receive that information. But other than that, Mr. Chair, everything else is working well.
Thank you, Superintendent Dixon. Our business agenda for tonight is item A, the election of board vice chair. As action item, Mr. Rouse. Upon the resignation of our chair, Mrs. Joanne Rainey, I was vice chair, and according to the policies, I become chair until permanent chair is elected. So that leaves a vacancy for vice chair. And at this time, I entertain discussion or motions for a vice chair.
Mr. Chair, make a nomination for Ms. Blackshear to act or serve as vice chair until the March election.
The motion has been properly made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mrs. Stokes, that Ms. Teresa Blackshear will serve as vice chair through March 2021. You heard that. Is in the discussion at this time? Are you ready for the question? Again, the motion is Ms. Teresa Blackshear to serve as vice chair till March 2021. You heard that motion. Are you ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand or say yes. That motion passed unanimously. Ms. Blackshear serves as vice chair.
Congratulations.
Next item, item B. End of fiscal year 2020, June report. It's an action item, Mr. Austin.
Mr. Chair, you didn't ask Ms. Blackshear if she excelled.
She raised her hand, she raised her hand, Mr. Dixon, so that means, if you vote with it, you accept.
All right, that's wonderful. Congratulations, Ms. Blackshear.
Good evening, Board Chair, newly appointed Vice Chair, congratulations, Ms. Blackshear, Board Member Superintendent Dixon, and the constituents of the community. We've had conversations in our last board meeting about end of year, some of the recommendations that we looked at from our auditors, and so this is reflected, some of those changes reflected in this report. So commonly, we close out September 30th. That's our state deadline that we have to meet, and that encompasses all our accruals, which simply means that we still collect money after the fiscal year close, which is June 30th. And those numbers are not reflected in this particular report. So what I do want to highlight is that FY20, again, was an interesting fiscal year because we were in the start of a global pandemic, one, and two, we had to make a lot of journal entries that dated back to fiscal year 2005. So as we cleaned up those particular errors that were in the past and we're moving forward, now we're looking at a little closer to where we are as far as our general ledger. So what you see before you is normally we receive more taxes than what we allot in the budget. And that's a great thing. This is also our margin of error and our safe haven to protect the budget for any unforeseen incidents, for example, a pandemic. So we're able to see that we did take in a little about $500,000 more in taxes than what we anticipated. And the reason for this is because we normally budget for ad valorem taxes, which is your property taxes, but we also see railroad taxes and other taxes as well, and that helps make up that number. The state revenue, we pretty much collected most of our state revenue, well, more than our state revenue allotted, because we had a midterm adjustment and they were working in our favor in March. So we did receive a little more money in state revenue, which is always a great thing. And we had more money for donations and other things of that nature as well. Now, I do want to point out is that some of the journey entries that we made affected some of these accounts. So we do see an increase in revenue and other items because some of those journey entries did increase those numbers. All right. So as we go to payments or our expenditures, as we look at this is where a lot of the impact as well was made, as far as our journey entries and then some of the things that we had this year. Now, I do want to point out, I like to start with the red first. At the very bottom, $174,857. And this means, in layman's terms, that this amount was not added to fund balance. Okay, we was underneath zero by that amount. However, once we break down the significance of that amount, we look at the adjustments that we made to the fund balance, and that amount came out to $134,245.70, which was a significant portion of that amount. We also take into consideration that we had to prepare for the pandemic in the midst of us trying to figure it out along with state officials. So in order for us to prepare for a new fiscal year that we did not have any idea how it would look, we did take some other expenditures that was not normally accounted for to prepare our student stakeholders for safety in that. And that amount is about $51,504.38. So unexpected, we had $185,786.08. So if we was in a normal setting, in a perfect situation, would have been in a situation where we added about $10,000 to $11,000 fund balance. We projected that we would not add anything to our fund balance. So looking at that, I am comfortable and confident that our fund balance held us strong in the middle of a pandemic, and it did serve its purpose in that. And so the adjustments that were made are itemized so that you can see the reason why that figure is highlighted in red. Are there any questions or concerns about the post-close report?
And those journal entries from 2005 is something that's been in the audit report for year after year, every year since I've been here for the past 7, 8 years, that we've been told that we need to clean up.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions for Ms. Paul? No question, what's your recommendation, Mr. Dixon?
My recommendation that we receive the post-close ending June 30, 2020 general fund report coming from the council.
Superintendent recommendation to receive the report, do I have a motion on that?
I move that motion.
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Ms. Stokes to accept the superintendent recommendation for fiscal year 2020 June report. Is there any discussion at this time? Again, the motion is to accept the recommendation from fiscal year 2020 June report. All in favor? Maybe by saying yes or raise your hand. All opposed? That motion passed unanimously. Next item. July 2020 physical report action items. Mr. Austin.
I I will speak to the common denominators between July and August, since they're back to back, to save some speaking on those. Our taxes, July and August, are reported to June 30th, end of month, because they are in accruals. So 60 days worth of our taxes are going to the prior fiscal year. So in July report and August report, since they're cash basis report, meaning that you only see the amount of money that is booked for that month currently, you would not see taxes reflected in this report. We did receive taxes for July and August, but again, they're posted in June, which we just went over their report. With that being said, what you see before you highlights what we received from our state, from state allocation, and all the expenditures that are associated with July. Normally, our first quarter in our fiscal year would look, but our cash flows are a lot less, we're taking a lot less than what we normally would see in the later months of the year because of just that accrual-based situation. And also, we rely on our federal programs and other state funding during this time to really offset any issues. So while it may appears that we have a lot more expenditures than income or revenue, we do have other grants that helps with this situation, and we rely on that during this period in that particular moment. So again, we had a great month in July. We met all our financial obligations in July, so we had a great start to our new fiscal year. Any questions or concerns about July?
Is that one, you said other is grants?
So other could be donations or anything that's not a federal or state grant. Yes, ma'am. And new in this is the CARES line item. That's normally not there, but since we're using CARES for the offset, us not reducing the calendar, you will see that line item until we start applying that. So I do want to know that there's something that's different on the monthly reports.
Ms. Black, your question was other in what capacity? Was it other support services?
Yes, that's what I was asking, you said it's support services.
Oh, I'm sorry, other support services.
Mhm.
Okay. So other support services, expenditure, anything that cannot be classified regularly, that may be buying a table for an event for a staff, for example. Something that's very miscellaneous, if you will. That's normally what that category of function is for.
Is that a general function? Considering I'm just looking from June to July and the significant difference. And it may be because we did it.
So, great question. So what you see in June is July through June. So that's the entire fiscal year. What you see in July is just what happened in July. So it's a complete separation between the two reports. So one is not dependent on the other. So we're starting anew, if you will.
So the telltale would be
June of next year, yes. Yeah. So this is starting the new fiscal year 2021 is what you're looking at in July 31st.
Any more questions? If not, Mr. Dixon, what's the recommendation, sir?
Mr. Chair, my recommendation will be that we accept the July 2020 financial report if there are no other questions.
Superintendent recommendation to accept the financial report of July 2020. Do I hear?
Mr. Chair, I move the motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to accept the June 2020 financial report. July. Sorry.
A second.
Motion was made by, properly made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Mrs. Blackshear to accept the superintendent recommendation for the July 20 financial report. Is there any discussion at this time? Again, the motion is to accept the recommendation from superintendent concerning the July 2020 financial report. Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. That motion passed unanimously. Next, business item on the agenda will be August 2020 financial report. Action item, Mr. Austin.
Thank you, sir. So talk about the common denominator of taxes. You see that it's accumulation from July to August, where our state funds are. Looking at this in August is normally our telltale sign of whether we need a TAN or something of that nature. So we did approve a TAN this year, and this can be reflected in some of this report because we did have more expenditures in this particular month due to the nature of how the school term starts. August is a very busy month, and we're gearing up and preparing for a lot of things. And on top of that, we do have more salaries that are starting in that particular period. So we do see a lot of our cash flow between August, September, and October in that. So that will be reflected in this report. Any questions or concerns about any line items in August?
Towards the TAM, when are we expected to get that paid on?
Yes, ma'am. So it will be paid in December, before December 31st. We always meet the obligation. But I do want to say a bit of good news in the TAN is that we did not have to use the TAN last month, which is a good thing. We didn't have to draw anything last month. We are anticipating drawing the rest of the TAN this month. Reason being is that a lot of our reimbursement from the state was lagging. It came in. And honestly, if the reimbursements that the state would have provided would have came in a timely fashion, we would have been approving the TAM in October opposed to when we did. So as far as cash flow wise, we're still pretty good on that trajectory and moving down the timeline of actually getting a TAN. So I am proud of that.
That's good.
We're making toward that mark in that. So.
Mr. Austin, you gave a short overview just a moment ago of the CARES Act and stated that it would be on our, it would be a line item. Is that what you said?
So the CARES for the revenue will be on this. So that's a great question about the CARES. One thing that we've been dealing with is that the CARES Act, the funding that the schools were supposed to receive, had a cease and desist order placed on it due to litigation. There was equitable issues amongst the state about who was supposed to get the money and why. So upon us dealing with that, we had a freeze on us drawing out any funds from the CARES Act. However, we've completed all the necessary steps that we needed to do. We satisfied all our equitable requirements, and we have submitted a budget to the state and waiting for feedback from them. So once we get all those things in order, we will be able to present a more itemized list of budgetary items, and that amount of CARES will start changing as we start utilizing those funds. But there will be a separate report showing you exactly, if requested, what the CARES Act money has been used for.
So your statement is that we have not used any CARES Act?
No, sir. But that we budgeted
We budgeted.
$100,000 to balance the budget. So that's why you see that $100,000 out there.
And Mr. Harris, that's a very good question, because this is a good point of reference.
Yes.
We've also had some private schools who have decided to participate in getting some of the CARES money that they are eligible for. Normally, we haven't had them to come and participate, but they did come to the meetings. They haven't requested it yet, but they did attend the meeting, and so they are eligible because they did come to the meeting.
Can you expound on that in reference to how do they receive those funds, and as we serve as the funding financial institution?
Yes. The students would have had to have been with us in FY 18 and 19, would have had to have been enrolled in our district. For instance, the one that did attend ended up submitted 5 students. In actuality, only ended up having 1 student that was eligible. And so if they were to purchase computers with the money that they were eligible to receive, those computers would have to be inventoried through us, and it would actually belong to us, but we would have to log in inventory. They would get it, but it would be Twiggs County. But yes, that's how it goes.
Can you give another example of something that they would be eligible for outside of technology from the CARES Act money?
Anything that we can use it for. Anything that we can use it for. Anything to help with COVID-19, if they needed a machine to spray, if they needed it for health supplies to help with, if they needed it to help with their not to have to furlough days.
And it's based on the formula, so it's not like we set the amount, it's set based upon the FTE that they add to it.
Yeah, so we were very fortunate that they only had that one. But we did need to bring that to our board's attention.
Any more questions?
And not only are they eligible for our, CARES money, the other monies, federal monies, just as more strings attached to it. The CARES Act money just did not have as many strings attached, so I think that's why we had more participation, opportunity for participation. I'm sorry, Mr. Austin, I just wanted to
No, sir, that's.
mention that while it was on my mind.
Any more discussion?
And when you do recall that we did budget for computers out of the CARES Act for this year. That is how we did get some additional technology. That was one out of that 100 that we set aside that would be, am I correct in that?
Yes, sir.
That was how we did meet that. And so some of the money, even though it has not been spent, it has been designated from the CARES. When we wanted some additional hotspots and some stuff that we could not get from federal funds, but that was how we were going to use it. But it was out of the allotment that we did designate that we've already discussed. So I did want to just make that clear. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any more discussion? What's your recommendation, Mr. Dixon?
My recommendation, Mr. Chair, is that we would receive the August 2020 financial report.
Okay. Recommendations from the superintendent to receive the August 2020 financial report.
I move that motion.
Second. The motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Ms. Stokes to accept the recommendation from the superintendent concerning the August 2020 financial report. Is there any more discussion? If not, again, the motion is to accept the recommendation from the superintendent concerning the August 2020 financial report. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. That motion passed now. Next one is item E on the business agenda. Will be 4-year degree classified salary scale. Action item, Mr. Austin.
All right. So just to bring background, originally we looked at this scale for our 4-year degree scale, which provided more of an umbrella approach to anyone that was in classified positions of secretary, clerical staff, in other positions deemed appropriate to fit that definition. And the issue that we seem to have with this was that it was not very specific, and it could be budgetary implications because everyone was so spread out. So as a solution to that, we've looked at different scales that are already existing and created a 4-year degree to an existing scale, which is more an appropriate approach due to the fact it's tied to their position. And I think we can better validate that being position by position, and it allows latitude on that particular scale. So I think there was about 4 scales, and we can start with payroll associate scale. And to the right, you will actually see the 4-year degree being notated. And each scale going forward being the same model. And so if there's any discussions or concerns about the way this is presented, then I can answer those questions. And again, this came about because we have so many great people in our district that are going back or have 4-year degrees, and they're doing a fantastic job. And so these positions, when they're initially created, they're not warranted for that growth opportunity. So it would be something that we should look into to make sure that those positions have that latitude.
When are we talking about this going into effect as far as salary increase?
July 1, next budget year.
And also this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent Dixon and Mr. Austin, this also came up because we have some identified positions without identified salary scale.
We've worked very hard to create salary scales for all positions, and we were finding some that are without.
Which is an old issue.
Yes, sir. We've come a long way with that.
Is there any more discussion from Mr. Austin concerning the 4-year degree classified salary scale?
And I think we take all of our salary scales, we publish them, we put them on our website in a way that everybody knows exactly what they are. So then when people are hired, everybody knows what it is that we pay. If you're looking at our district and you're interested in coming, you know what we got.
The only thing that I will address again, as I have addressed twice, is that these discussions primarily started with non-certifiable staff, and paraprofessional is a certified position as well as a parapro with a bachelor's degree, or without. There's still a cert test. But that's my only concern. It's not an issue, it's a concern, considering this particular salary scale that is in discussion is a local salary scale. And there is a state salary scale for paraprofessionals. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not aware of one, Mr. Harris. If there is one, I do believe in practice that most districts set their own paraprofessional scales. In some instances, they have a 4-year degree. They don't have to take a test because they're waived. They have, this degree qualification to beat that. But I do believe that that's a local decision.
Do we draw federal funds or state funds for paraprofessionals?
federal funds if they're placed in the federal fund budget, but that's not because of their position, but because of need and the student support. They can be paid from general as well as federal.
Up to 90% of them are paid from general, am I correct?
No, sir.
Okay.
90% of ours is federal.
Goes back to my original question. If we draw funds from them or for them, tell me how that works in creating a salary for them. A local scale.
It's based off of need, and then, but there is not a state salary scale for paraprofessionals.
Right, but even better, you said there's a federal allotment if placed in that position. So
There is not a federal salary scale for them, but there is a budget, a pot of money that we can allot so much for, to meet the students' needs. So out of that, we choose to fund some parapros to meet those student needs. I get where you're going.
I hope somebody does.
Yeah, but there is not a federal or state salary scale.
So what you're saying, Mayor, you're asking what, how's it done then, right?
So if we decide, if administration, Superintendent Mr. Austin, and everyone in their respective places, if we decide how many paraprofessionals we place under that fund allotment, then we disperse it equally, or maybe not so equally. What determines who gets what amount of money out of the pot of money? This scale?
The scale.
So their salary based upon that scale and
Experience.
some benefits is budgeted for that purpose. But it's based upon what the local district has set, and that's what the.
But when that pot of money is gone, that pot of money is gone, and then that's when you would have to pick it up.
Well, that's what you said, Mr. Austin, was partially true. The local district would set that amount. If we're just doing it, how is it set prior to now?
It's a great question. So this particular scale that you're looking at has been existent. It has been in existence since I've been here. What's different about the paraprofessional scale you're seeing is it has a 4-year degree component. Everything else has already been in place. So the process normally is whoever that director of that program is, they'll ask me, Mr. Austin, can I see the salary sheet? That salary sheet is created based upon the paraprofessional scale. They take that amount and budget their federal funds according to those processes that we have in place.
So 2 questions. We haven't had parapros with a bachelor's degree up until now?
We have.
Yeah.
All right. Second part of that, or another question would be, how do we determine their salary? Or was their salary based on a associate's degree? Or was their salary based on no experience? Did they make the same amount of money?
That's what they were paid off the paramanager.
They had a 2.
Hence why the paramanager was created.
Correct.
Yes.
Now that in accepting of the bachelor's degree, it's not my recommendation to, as a team, that we continue to use the paramanager because it was a space filler. If
Absolutely.
if you focus your attention on paraprofessional salaries, on the high to low sheet, it's helpful in seeing funds. It's not helpful in seeing who's labeled as what. However, I think we can distinguish a few people by name, not by position. It's gonna root you back to the fairness of this, and all we are doing is accepting 4-year degrees for the positions that have been presented by administration. Am I correct?
Yes, for the paraprofessional position, yes.
paraprofessional, payroll associate,
Before that, you said yes.
school secretary, police chief.
If you, Ms. Harrison, that may call for some further discussion in executive session. With the question you just raised.
We gonna table that?
This would be the second time it's been tabled.
I was only saying to executive session, then when we come back out to vote on it. Would that be acceptable?
Don't we still have to make a motion to table it
Yes,
here?
sir. Yes, sir. And then,
I move that motion to table after executive session. So we come out of executive session, then we can make a motion.
Can we do that?
it's personnel, because there were some pointed things that you
Right, you can't call names.
wanted to.
You know, personnel before we went in office.
But you had said, correct me if I'm wrong, you had said some names, not position. So if you're gonna get some names, then, you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We just-
Yeah, that's what I picked up on, so
That's what I thought you were saying.
maybe I picked up on the wrong thing.
It's the same.
Okay.
You're accurate. Yeah, you're
Okay.
accurate. It's the same. Because I don't want to discuss people, I want to discuss positions, but we didn't list positions tonight, we list names. So you're right, if we talked about, my conversation isn't names, my conversation is positions, but because it's listed that way, we have to take it that way. Yeah, so
For point of clarity, we may have to go into that.
right, absolutely.
So that's why I made that recommendation.
Oh, yeah, I said,
Well, I can't make the recommendation.
I make the motion.
I second. I don't even know if there's much on the floor.
It's on the floor.
Okay, the motion been probably made by, Ms. Blackshear, seconded by Mr. Harris, to table the, 4-year degree classification salary scale for clarity in executive session to be discussed, to be brought back after executive session. All in favor, by saying, raise your hand, or saying aye. That motion carried, Next item, the item F, FY 21 high to low salary scale, action item, Mr. Austin.
All right, so every year, we attempt to bring a high and low of all the salaries at that current time in the district for approval. And this allows us to, one, ensure that we are following the recommended procedures by our auditors and that the board approves salaries. So this is a summary that you have before you of our personnel and their rankings from high to low. So it's something we do every year, and we just want to bring it back again for FY 21.
And this has saved us several times with our audit, in our audit report, that we have brought this before the board. And I think this is a good practice that we started maybe a year or two before Ms. McCullough left, and we've continued it with Mr. Austin.
Ever any discussion?
Yes. Mr. Austin, are supplements included in this?
Yes, sir.
we should have further discussion in reference to supplements, considering that we reduced those last year. And there have been some changes made in our district that may have better positioned us or negatively positioned us. But I think that a supplement discussion is necessary as we prepare for our to accept our next fiscal year budget.
So it's a future conversation, Mr. Harris, or is something like that?
It's a future conversation. I think there needs to be a work session specifically for district supplements. Considering that supplements have been a conversation throughout this year.
Sure have.
So I would love to have a
Work session.
work session specifically to equalize in fairness and in contract days. Because we worked that very well. I don't know how well it worked out for the individuals, but we have definitely discussed and minimized some days, added some days to contracts to offset some supplement changes. There has to be some bigger conversations about supplements that aren't scary conversations, but they're necessary conversations for the sake of offsetting some salaries, considering that we're in a rural district and they can go 20 miles and make a little bit more money. But to come to Tweaks is to know what you're getting into. It's a priority to be here and serve here, but I think we can discuss. I can't give it to them. We can talk about it. I think we had some deeper conversations about supplements.
Okay, hear what Mr. Harris say. Is there more discussion on that? So you're saying, we need to discuss this tonight before we accept it, bring it back to another, do we have to accept this?
I don't think that his request, what he's talking about, has nothing to do with this. This is the salaries for FY21 for this fiscal year. He's talking about going the salaries.
You're talking about the one that's coming up, right? The one that starts in July?
Yes, sir.
2022.
FY22.
And this was,
Well, that's the one that he's talking about. with the supplement and
This is FY20, yes, sir, this past July's. What we were talking about now, approving right now. This is not for next year. This is
Well,
supposed to-
two concerns just went on the table. We would normally accept high to low salary scales or have high to low salary sheets in June.
so good point. What those numbers are consistent of is the state salary schedule that we approved in the first part of this year. It's consistent of the classified schedule that we approved and the supplements that we approved, administrative supplements and any local supplements tied to the teacher scales. So what you see before you is nothing that we haven't discussed. It may not be in a format to where you can see what's behind the number, because it's a
Oh, no,
summary of that, you know. But
that's fine.
yeah, but we've approved.
I
those.
think it's in the two things.
Yes, sir.
How it's broken down, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we all can't recall every supplement per person, position, woo-de-woo. My concern is when we accepted supplements for 2020, 2021, we did it as a supplement. We accepted the supplement, and then, salary, because we didn't accept the high to low sheet. I'm trying to find a technicality to help this. And let me help you to help this. I'm gonna show you the difference.
Okay.
We accept supplements individual for departments or for people, however we do it, depending on what we're working on. But this is an action item. What you're telling me is, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
we have some wiggle room here. Because we never accepted the high to low salary sheet.
It's a yes and no. I do it as transparency. Most superintendents don't give this as a rule. I do it as protection for our audit. That I want you to have it because we need that as the audit. You sat in on the audit, and one of the things that they want to know, did the board approve every salary?
Okay, can you put a pin right there?
Yes.
What part is the courtesy? Because I think there have been some times, maybe before your reign here, that the board or the stakeholders may not have known who was paid, how it was paid, and why it was decided.
Right.
Audit red flag. How does your governing board not know what a salary is? So help me with the transparency part, because I know I think you're telling me how you break it down. But if this never came to me, I would ask for it. I may not ask in the form of high to low scale, but I would ask, I want to see every employee supplement and their salary. So we added, not to cut you off, because I think you answered the question that I raised. My question to Mr. Austin and Superintendent Dixon is, because we had accepted this as your final submission of salaries and supplements combined, is there wiggle room?
I don't think so, because there's a state scale. There's nothing there that you haven't already approved. The state scale and the supplements you've already approved.
Absolutely, but because the supplement is local, we can always amend it. Let me tell you why. Not why we would amend it. Let me tell you why I have some concern. And the board may share the same concern. We did organizational chart changes in the midst of us accepting and approving supplements
Yes.
that affect this or the people who are on this.
And that's reflected in there, right?
So we received resignations, we made changes contingent to our needs, not based on people, but what the district needed. That may result in some unfairness when it comes to supplements because of workloads and building changes. That's just my red flag. I'll leave that where it is, but I think this may need to be a further discussion.
And that's always an open door.
I believe Ms. Dixon, the board has, you all have the
Yeah,
opportunity to.
that's all. Yeah. Now, what you got to on your last statement, I don't disagree with you. And yeah.
If I had to go a step further, we hired some people for a position.
We went to Egypt, but you are correct.
We moved into another position for the sake of the district need.
Yeah.
And as a result,
We were unfair.
I think there's some unfairness.
So to that point, yes, you will have some wiggle room on that. That's, I understand what you're saying.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Yes, sir.
Got a yes from the CFO. Time for everything.
And the superintendent.
And the superintendent.
We went to Egypt, but we got it.
Yeah, I have to go there. Not for me.
Why you have to go down there?
clarity for stakeholders and people watching who may not get the full story of what we're talking about. Because if you
without necessarily just,
Absolutely.
all right, I got you.
me, not me being me. And then it's also good transparency from us, as superintendent always talks about his transparency. I think we have to learn to throw that word around every now and then, because we had these conversations in May, June, and July.
Right.
Who remembers that in October,
And I
November?
think, and really, I think that was a good pickup on you, to pick that out and think about it. But there have been some changes made,
Yes, sir.
and we didn't account for them, then we supplemented for the high-low sheet. I think that was great.
And sometimes, you know, when we do the hiring, we don't have the exact amount of what they're gonna be making, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's another point. But
Good points.
So, back to the question. Mr. Dixon, with the recommendation.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would recommend that at the present time, that we do approve the high to low sheet, knowing that the board can address it at any time.
Okay, the recommendation from the superintendent is to approve the high-low sheet, knowing that, with the consent that the board can amend it at any time.
I'll make that motion.
Motion been made by Mrs. Stokes, is there a second?
I second motion.
Motion been made properly made by Ms. Stokes, seconded by Mr. Harris, to accept the superintendent recommendation for the high-low salary sheet, with the consent that the board can amend it at any time. You heard that motion? Any more questions? Any discussion?
Yes, the discussion is, we will accept this as we planned for this in our work session for 2020, 2021. However, I will ask that Board Chair, Mr. Rouse, add this to our agenda for our November work session, and that we possibly, with a possible amendment to reflect the supplement change to be effective for this year.
Which supplements exactly, Mr. Harris?
I think that will be discussed at our
Yeah,
work session.
all of them. All.
So, we heard the discussion, from Mr. Harris concerning, putting on next agenda for the amendment of the, supplement change. Other than that, you ready to vote? All in favor, know by raising your hand. All opposed, have the right to raise their hand or say no. Ms. Blacksher? Yeah. 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, and 1 opposed. Okay, next item. Purchase of a driver ed educational car. Action item. Mr. Dixon and Chief Waller.
Hey, well, how you doing? Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. As Chief is coming, Chief had a set of bids for us, and of course, several people across the state are going through the same process. And his first set of bids, he went back to check them today, and they were all gone. Someone had already purchased, so this is the new set of bids he had to get today for.
And I get new bids daily, they come automatically come, so I just picked the best 3 that we had out there today. They're very comparable to the bids you had before, but,
Good evening.
Good
Board
evening.
members, Superintendent Dixon, members of the public that may be with us virtually. The topic I'm discussing today is the district potentially purchasing a vehicle for our driver's education program. Before we get into the vehicle, I wanted to go over the criteria that the state requires to certify a driver's ed vehicle. First of all, the vehicle can't be any older than 7 years. The mileage can't be over 350,000. DDS requires that the vehicle meets their safety standards, which the braking system, the airbags have to be working on both the passenger and driver side. All the lights on the vehicle have to be in operation. You need to have good seat belts that are working. You also need compliance signage indicating that it's a driver's education vehicle, including the district logo and name. There also has to be a braking system on the passenger side. I called all over Georgia, and I found one company that will do it, Custom Mobility. We actually use them now to service our air conditioning systems. And they will be able to install that braking system for about $1,000, and that's a job that could be done in a day. So now if you look at the bids I got, first you got a 2017 Ford Fusion. It's got about 40,000 miles on it for $14,500. That's a little under $1,000 of value that you're gaining. The second bid is a 2016 Ford Fusion. It's got about 51,000 miles, $11,900. That is $1,300 under market value. And the last one, you got a 2020 Ford Fusion for a 17 Ford. It has 1,600 miles on it roughly. It's about $3,300 under market value. Now, if you were to purchase a 2020 brand new off the lot, you're looking at $23,500 roughly. But the thing with these bids is they go quick. Like I said, these are very comparable to the ones y'all had before. But they're all good. I like the last one, but if you're saving $5,000, you know, if you purchase something off the lot as to something with 1,600 miles on it, $5,000, that's just practically a brand new vehicle. Y'all had any questions for me?
The previous one that we got now, what year model is it?
So I want to say maybe a 13, 12. But they wouldn't certify it. They would not certify it.
It's a
Airbag issue.
What you mean airbag issue?
They wouldn't certify it because of the passenger side airbag.
it's protruding,
It's what?
protruding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've taken it to try to get it. And the dash is, we tried to get, that replaced to cover it, you know, so it would not be showing. We even went to the junkyard, tried to get another dash. And, we called, what was the name of that company? What was the name of the company that we called the company, but we couldn't get it certified through DDS.
How many miles on that car?
We only got probably about 45.
Okay.
But ultimately, we couldn't use the car no way because it's outdated.
For students,
It has to be 7 years.
we can't use it for students.
If it's a 13, it's not outdated.
It's not.
It'll be outdated when you get to your.
But it's not outdated, yeah. I
Yeah,
understand what you're saying, be outdated in 2021. Well, my whole concern is, it don't matter about that car. You're saying with the miles that we put on that car. I mean, we haven't put that many miles on that car in the amount of time we had. It's just my opinion. I mean, I know they're gonna have a recommendation, but I look at the lesser cost with the miles, even if we put 45,000 on this car, this, 2016, we still won't have just less than 100,000 miles. That is my opinion.
We received how much funding to offset the cost?
Well, they gave us the first car, so we won't get any funding, for this one.
Well, that takes the conversation a little different. So,
I ain't see it my way.
well, I started the way at the beginning, I just said that's the right question.
Yes, they gave us the first car.
So,
See, what's the value of that car we got? Might have an auction sell that car.
there's a lot of other stuff we said.
I'm just saying, you know, that could be in them,
It could be added to the number.
yeah. I mean, what we need two cars?
See that van out there too?
Sell the van too?
We gonna drive.
I'll drive that.
What was it bought for?
Professional.
Who used that van?
I'm not the only one.
Well, when you talking about that van, we talking about the car. So how about this?
No, he asked me that question.
This car, cause I'm finna show you a trend in a minute.
Okay.
Let me drive. Why do we offer driver's ed?
For our students.
What is our percentage of students that utilize driver's ed?
Probably, I would say 75, 78%.
All right. I think driver's ed is a good opportunity for students, and I know some people who are working in that department during their stay in Tweeds. I also know that we utilize CGTC for some of their other services, and driver's ed is a service that they provide and would provide to us, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
Why don't we reduce this cost and make it zero?
All of our kids can't get the CGCT.
Our children, CGTC coming to our children out there.
Yeah. The thing about it is, we could do that. That could be an option. That could be an option, and that could be reduced to zero. Us offering driver's ed here affords us an opportunity to offer it, you know, when readily available to us. And I would hate to see us lose our driver's ed program, because it does give us the opportunity to offer it whenever. But that is an option. That is a viable option.
Do we have a driver's ed program that allows it to be fully functioning all the time? Because the key word you said was when we want, when
We need it.
when we need it.
Yeah, it is, because even during when we had SIG and we had to run it through the summer, we ran it through the summer.
Flag on the plate. Glad you drove that. Because we had SIG to help offset some funding for that program, possibly, I don't know that to be fact, but it may have offset some salaries for individuals to work that program as well. I don't know that to be fact either. However, we don't have that same allotment of funding right now. And to exhaust funds in a vehicle that we could purchase at any time, any year, why not offset this cost right now? As I just saw, $135,000 reduction in the anticipated. Am I talking? Maybe not. Maybe this is
that's
What-
that's an option.
What else would we lose? What other factors? Because I don't want to make it sound one-sided. What other factors are in place in making that relationship stronger with CGTC to bring that program that they offer here, and possibly even run it through the summer? I don't know that they offer it that way, but what I do know is
Now, with CGCT, that may be one of those that have a cost factor to it. I know at Oconee Fall Line Tech, there is a cost factor. Now, I'm not sure about CGCT. I would need to explore that with CGCT, but I know at Oconee Fall Line, there is a a cost factor, but now I'm not sure.
So I know,
about CGCT.
right, this came as an information item, previously, which I appreciate, to have some time to think about it, look through some things myself.
Does anyone know, do you know that? Is it a cost at CGCT?
I don't know that, but what I will say is, are we operating this program right now
Yes.
through COVID? If somebody needs the services we can offer, we can provide it.
But that's an option. I just like the option of being, I do like the option of being able to offer to our kids.
This purchase would be a reduction of our 2020, 2021 fiscal year budget, Mr. Austin.
When you say reduction, what you mean, sir?
Did we initially allocate for funds to purchase a new car?
Initially,
Is it a line item?
it's not a specific line item.
No, but we were not aware of it, that it was gonna be.
And this cost, chief, is gonna be, I know you gave us option, but of course you have in your mind what you want.
It's up to you all.
You're a smart man, but we know you got an opinion too.
What do you say, like?
I think you get more, the car will last longer. Get some more value there.
It ain't gonna be no good after 7 years.
That's right.
I mean,
For the 2020, that's what I said, you,
yeah, for 2020, it ain't after 7 years, and with the amount of miles that we put on it. I like the part of checking with the, Central Georgia Tech, just to see.
absolutely.
Definitely, we do wanna keep driver's ed for our kids, so, but yeah, definitely, I think if we can check.
I think we got two viable things that we see. Number one, we check with CGCT.
Yes.
Number two, if we can get $10,000 for our car,
For the one we got now? I don't think so.
you don't know. You don't know, Mr. Mike.
Nothing wrong with it, but the airbag.
For a Ford Focus, with 51,000 miles, you get $10,000.
I don't know if we've got,
I don't even see you getting five.
Mr. Mike, if you,
Look at NADA.
you don't know nobody in that deal, Mr. Mike.
Ain't nobody them dollars though. Look at what they have.
So-
Mr. Mike, you know, you got all my business, I'm trying to sell a car, and you got anything all my business.
So,
If you got somebody gonna give you 10,000, then that's a great car.
What mileage would be acceptable? Because I mean, if you want to buy a car with 100,000 miles, that's the same year.
but chief, we don't wanna buy no car. Considering that this is not a line item on our proposed budget, in addition to the building repairs such as this roof, was not a line item on our proposed budget. That puts us a little over $42,000 that was not initially accounted for in our fiscal year budget. We have to be vigilant as we continue with these conversations. I'm not against the driver's ed program or the purchase of a vehicle. However, because our funds let's take care of the people in the district and let's try to offset some costs with some other partnerships if possible. But there are some other concerns that we have in taking care of those children, scholars, men and women that work for this great district that we probably need to address in conversation when it comes to funding before we allocate $42,000 in some unexpected costs. As we know that there are things to pay for, and we know we don't get a roof on this building, we're gonna have a board meeting in the football stadium. Virtual. We'll be home. And it may be a third thing that comes up We just don't know. We could be at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 before July gets here that we have to spend. And, just don't think we have it. But I think this is a good opportunity, Chief, to view, and if Central Georgia Tech's cost doesn't meet our budget, and their car rental usage equates to this, you got a smart board. I think they'll make the decision to.
Do what we have to do for the children.
I digress.
So we can get, if we can get $8,000 for that car, does that help us?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
It still don't help you your salary, what you paying somebody to run drivers in.
No, I mean,
That will, you
if you can
know,
get $8,000 and still we can get, with Central Georgia Tech, then I call it a plus.
I think we can win on that one. 8,000.
Going
But in case.
on and our own car and letting them run the program. Technicality, but that's still a good point. Because if anything ever happened with them, we still could start our program back and already have a vehicle. So that is a good point too. Options, I like options.
so if there is a charge for students, we want the students to pay the cost.
No.
No, I don't, because if that's the case, the students might well just went to Central Georgia Tech, we know the school is not really giving them driver's ed.
Yeah, no overhead for our students.
Right.
I was for,
Table.
yes.
Any more questions for Chief Walton?
Thank you, Chief.
I appreciate y'all for giving me the
Somebody
opportunity.
knows that.
Thank you.
Okay, recommendation, from the superintendent to table the purchase of driver ed educational car until further discussion or further information come in.
What next meeting? November.
The regular board meeting in November.
First one will be November 10th.
Until November the 10th, is that gonna, I need a motion,
I'll make a motion that we table this until November the 10th.
I second.
the motion been properly made by Ms. Stokes and seconded by Mr. Harris to table the purchase of a driver ed educational car till November the 10th, 2020, first board meeting in November. Is there any discussion at this time?
Discussion is, this is our first opportunity to look at the calendar per a table for this regular scheduled meeting. We do have to have further discussion in reference to meeting dates for the months of November and December in our executive session tonight.
Any more discussion? Again, the motion is to table the purchase of a driver ed car until November 10th, 2020. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. That motion passes now. Next item, item H, athletic band and ROTC supplement, Mr. Austin.
All right. All right, so in our last conversation about the supplements, we were discussing specifically the football portion, and get more clarity on those supplements by those positions. We had an opportunity to meet with the head coach, to speak with him about his plans for his football program and the supplements. So what was recommended is as follows. Is the football defensive coordinator remains $4,000. The offense coordinator remains 4,000. The head middle school coach remains 4,000. Assistant middle school coach remains 3,000. The special teams manager is reduced from 3,000 to 1,700.
Run that back again, Mr. Austin.
Yes, sir. All of
Just the last one, I'm sorry.
1,700 special teams manager, opposed to 3,000. That's the only change to his original recommendation.
What does the team, a special team manager do? I'm not into football, y'all.
So you kick off, punt people, when they're kicking the ball off, that aspect, I would assume they're managing that aspect of the program.
Okay.
This is better than I can just see you go.
Mr. Dixon, you didn't have that conversation with him?
I did.
That didn't change nothing?
No, sir.
The conversation on the table was what aspect, Mr. Ryan?
With the discussion, since they actually didn't have a whole year.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Even though you had said, supplement was there,
Mm-hmm.
which I agree with that part. But, he said, the Dixon, excuse me if I'm wrong, but the last meeting you said that you would, have a discussion with him about that. And see what we come up with, so.
And so these are his words. I told my coaches I was gonna pay them, and I'm gonna keep my word to it. My word ought to be worth something. So we didn't have a season. I said we want to pay them their supplements, but I just want you to take under consideration that we didn't have a season. But we want to pay them. And I said I haven't micromanaged, football coaches. We want to pay them. Not that we don't want to pay them. We want to just take into consideration that we didn't have a season and make sure that we're being good stewards. And I asked him to submit it back to me in writing so we wouldn't have any miscommunication. And that was the only one that he was willing to adjust. And so I said, well, I will take it back, but I would advise you to give me a plan A and a plan B.
We have no plan B?
Yes, sir, we do.
Did the plan B come out and you talked to him, or what?
I told him he could submit me a plan A and a plan B. You got a plan B?
Scroll up some, Mr. Bass.
Before we move from this proposed supplement, never mind.
Scroll to the next sheet. His plan B is as follows. For the sake of our constituents who may not be able to see this, offense coordinator, 2,000, defensive coordinator, 2,000, head middle school coach, 2,000, assistant middle school coach, 2,000, special teams manager, 1,000.
Superintendent Dixon, what other, sport did not take place due to COVID in our fall 2020 athletic year?
Our fall sports are, help me, cross country,
Girls softball,
girls softball,
what you did, cheerleading.
So then with softball and
girls
I
softball.
and football,
don't really make enough kids do.
Huh?
Yeah, missing the minutes that we do during fall. That's it.
You said cross-country?
Chris, cross country is a fall.
you sure that's fall?
Mhm.
It typically, well, at least I know that's what we had to do for basketball training. We didn't play football, we did cross country to get in shape going into basketball season.
Cross country, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I know a meet just happened yesterday, so yeah, it's cross country season.
Well, considering that we still have to go to executive session, I believe we should move expeditiously to state our case. My case is, I do understand that these supplements were not presented to the board prior to now. If they, let me be specific, prior to this month. It probably would have been a recommendation to reduce these. However, the athletic department traditionally decides these themselves. And I don't think that in the midst of having a season or not having a season, that this is the first time that this has come to the board, from my understanding, we should make a change in its initiation to us.
And it was clarified. He did submit in August.
Okay.
I did get that out of the meeting, that it was submitted in August. It wasn't submitted in the spring, it was submitted in August, and my conversation with him was that, he said, well, you know, my people left, so we don't do people, we do positions. We fund your position, and then you this is what you do for your position.
Good teachable moment.
Regard, yes, so we got that clear now. So, you know, that it was submitted to Mr. Austin in August, mid-August, so.
Superintendent Dixon, do you think it's fair, or would be fair to those affected by this to have a change in their anticipated salary in the midst of, the pandemic and COVID really didn't have a lot to do with this, other than they're not playing. However, who's to say in January that basketball will truly have a season? We don't know, because this is really out of our control. All we can control is the budgeting for how we pay and who we pay. So with COVID not being on our shoulder, it's on our shoulders, not being in our hands. It's just kind of hard to reduce a salary promised to someone in the midst of the salary payment time, in the midst of the salary scale. It would just be hard for me.
Is, the only inequity that I see is that we've always handed the football coach this pot of money, and he's always distributed. It would be unfair or not equitable that we don't do it. That's the only inequity that I see. Um, and we always want to be equitable. Now, if he made this decision to do that, that would be him. Because we've always traditionally given a pot of money to the football coach, and he made that distribution.
Now let me add to my statement. Had this come to us in the overall pot of money, it would have been reduced. Because we reduced all the other supplements. In fairness, if this had come to us in the regular schedule, accepting of supplements, as we reduced the others, knowing that we were going into August without a football, that funding pot would have been reduced.
And as the board, that is the board's pleasure. You see, but
Let me back up. We did not reduce other athletic supplements due to COVID. We reduced other athletic supplements because budgeting.
Well, I don't think we reduced, but, one supplement for athletic.
They're more.
Oh, you mean sports?
Athletic sports, we did not reduce, but one did we?
Right, it was more the administrative side,
Right, we reduced one, that was football coach,
the head football.
your head football coach.
That's the only one.
If I want to reduce,
It was on the
The
same
other one, you
sheet.
know, we did something with days.
It's a reduction.
It's a reduction.
A reduction is a reduction.
but it's not a reduction day, not reduction supplement. You said supplement. Now, if we talking supplement, or we talking days, and we did a reduction with other athletics department as far as days. We did days and supplement.
Which
for
equated
football.
to a reduction in funds, right?
Well, in that case, you did two reduction on football coaching. Reduction in days and your reduction in the amount.
And the other was a.
Did we?
Yeah, we,
Well, we should be doing a whole lot more. Well, that's a deeper conversation.
like Superintendent said, so are we gonna be fair and equity?
Let's be fair in this conversation too, though. I know the night that we had this conversation, more cuts were proposed in there. I do know
Not
that.
athletic,
Superintendent Dixon, we did not discuss other cuts in athletic from coaches.
I mean, if you need a
Not
witness,
because-
we don't need a witness, we can go back and look at records.
Now, what was accepted versus what was proposed is two different things.
Most of the proposals came from, first you was the one proposing the numbers off. And some of them we said no, then we came back to the next meeting. And we looked at them. The only thing in athletic that changed out was not to put nobody in AD. Other than that, we cut the principals at the high school. We cut the, we didn't cut the band, I don't think we cut band.
mm-hmm.
You cut the band too?
Cut the
Okay.
band.
So, what was proposed may not have been motioned in second, but I said proposed. I know that we proposed more than one athletic cut in supplements. Now, what we did was at the board's discretion, but I know we proposed more than
Well,
one cut.
proposing don't carry no weight. Motion second will carry weight.
Facts.
Yeah, there's a lot of proposals, so propose don't have no bearing on that. That's almost like an opinion.
Well, we accept the superintendent's recommendation.
And for what?
It was just to cut one person.
I thought we did that, the board did them numbers.
Said the recommendation before the motion. In fairness, I couldn't. In fairness, I wouldn't vote to cut their money. Just in fairness, I That's what
I mean,
discussion.
it don't bother me either way, just saying,
It would be different if the all employees, slightly different, it shouldn't be no different. It would be slightly different to me if all of these were legacy employees. When you would negotiate a salary or a top salary when you get the person in and you present to them what they would be making, how do you renege? The supplement he proposed to them in
well, I understand when you read the letter, what he said he proposed to them, but my thing
Did they
was,
sign a contract contingent to that number? Or supplements in contract? I digress.
well, what's the recommendation, Mr. Dick?
Down to the meat.
Huh?
Down to the meat.
Yeah, I mean, we said, and
You
propose.
propose, all right, that's it.
After my conversation with him, I gave him my rationale for what I would do, my suggestion of what I would do. And for historical perspective and going forward, and for equity purposes, I will take his recommendation of what he's recommending for his football coaches.
Plan A.
Plan A.
Superintendent recommendation for the athletic band ROTC supplement. Recommendation to accept head coach, Plan A. I'll get a motion on it.
Can you put plan A on the screen?
And the only difference in the plan A is the 17, right?
No, half, all that is in half. Plan B is,
Half.
what you talking about from the previous before? Yeah.
I move that motion.
The motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Ms. Stokes to accept the superintendent recommendation from the athletic band and ROTC supplement. Any discussion? Again, the motion has been made, to accept the recommendation from the athletic department and the ROTC supplement, Plan A. All in favor? Ready to vote? Raise your hand and say aye. That motion passed unanimously. That's our last item. Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Yes, sir.
You've been a real faithful servant tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Give me a motion to enter into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that motion.
Second.
Motion been properly made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Ms. Blackshear. Is there any discussion? Again, the motion has been made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Ms. Blackshear to move into executive session. Are you ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Okay? Okay. All right. Motion passed unanimously.